Hey buds, welcome to another week of the Homegrown Helpers. This is your host, Rob Smith, bringing you another home grower interview, jam-packed with advice to help you excel at cannabis cultivation. I'm so pumped to be helping you on your journey to grow better, cleaner, healthier medicine, and this week's guest is no different. This week I'm talking with Thor, the gentle giant from the great state of Maine. Throughout this interview, you're just going to get that down-to-earth, wholesome feeling from what you envision as a large Nordic dude that is going to give you a Viking-type hug. And pretty sure that's exactly what Thor is. So in this interview, we cover a lot of general gardening advice, grow tips, things that are going to help growers of all skill levels. But we really talk about deep water culture and kind of get into the general advice and how to help growers get started with that, because that's what Thor kind of does, is helping people get started with that deep water culture. He's going to come back for a part 2. We want to dig deeper into that DIY, DWC, maybe put some pictures up, do the complete thing start to finish for you. He also wanted to do a giveaway that we completely spaced about on this interview. So we're going to come back. He has some seeds that he wants you all to have and help you get growing and help you be successful. So that's what we're going to do. What else is going on with us? Well, we are 1 week away from your opportunity to get your GrowPass, and sign up starts on September 23rd. Be open bright and early in the morning. Whenever I get up and push that button, make that happen. And we'd love to have you. This is your ticket to a better grow. You hear me talk about it all the time, but this is the time for you to join and see what GrowPass has to offer you. One of the big things we have to offer is on October 1st, we have a $6,000 valued giveaway. We typically give away 5 prizes. This time we're going to be giving away 7 prizes, and our members haven't even heard about prize 6 and 7 yet, so this is going to be a first for them as well. We are giving away 20-minute consultations to 2 more members from our friend Rizo Rich and the one and only Dr. Coco. So that's prizes 6 and 7. That's just for members. Also on October 1st, we're going to be giving away a TrimBag. So right now you can go to growcastpodcast.com/giveaway. I think it's also mygrowpass.com/giveaway, listener/giveaway, -giveaway, something like that. Or just our linktr.ee/Growcast Instagram bio. You can find it a dozen different places. But we're giving away a TrimBag. That's like a $350 value when you include shipping. Going to come to your doorstep. It's going to help save you time, money, effort, all of the above. So on October 1st, we're doing a listener giveaway. You can enter right now. We're doing our member giveaway. All that totaled up, we're probably giving away $7,000 worth of grow gear, advice, value, however you want to word it. That's what we're doing. So you can get your GrowPass at mygrowpass.com/sign-up, or just, like I said, follow the link tree. Easy to find it. And September 23rd, bright and early in the morning. We'd love to have you. So we also have to thank our partners for this show, Green Goddess Supply, and their extensive line of smoking necessities. So all of you growers need somehow to consume it. I assume you are smoking it like the majority of people do as the primary source of your medicine and your recreational or adult consumption, however you want to word it. But Green Goddess Supply has it all. They have papers, they have grinders, they have jars, they have glass, they have rolling trays, they have storage boxes, all sorts of really cool stuff. GreenGoddessSupply.com. Use the code GROWCAST to save yourself 10% off. You can also get $100 off their self-contained grow cabinet called the Armoire. Check it out, guys. Green Goddess Supply gives you everything that you need to get growing and for smoking. So that's it. Let me get you over to this great interview with Thor. Enjoy it. And welcome to another Homegrown Helpers episode, all you growers out there. Thanks for joining me again today. And on the line with me today, I'd like to welcome in Thor from Maine. Welcome to the show, Thor.
Hey, how you guys doing? Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Or good to hear from you. Excuse me.
So Thor was just kind of giving me a rundown, and I don't want to get too much into it because I want it to come from him. But Thor's up in Maine and gonna kick off Viking Gardens or is running Viking Gardens as a caregiver and looking to make his footprint there in the cannabis industry up there in Maine. So I got a lot of connections. I'm going to do what I can for you, Thor. But why don't you tell us how we got to this point? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with the plant and why we're talking today and you're sharing some advice with our audience.
Excellent. Thank you, first off, for allowing me to be here and, learn from everybody else. I've looked and did my homework into your show and everybody else that's been able to talk and really share their knowledge. And it's a blessing to be here. So thank you very much for that. And I'd like to just talk to you guys today about, shaping the cannabis industry in a positive direction, as well as the way that we're growing here. Viking Gardens has been going on for about 5 years now. It wasn't such a big operation at first. It was something that was originally meant to help the medicinal aspect of my family and myself. We have been using cannabis for a long time as a great medicinal tool for not only mental aspect, but body aspect too as well. We started doing DWC right away. This was a method of my wife's originally. She had been growing for a lot more times than Viking Gardens.
Hold on, Thor. We're going to get into your grow setup, but I want to hear your personal history with cannabis.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Were you 12? Were you 20? Medical reasons, and now what brought you to Maine to where you're a caregiver helping other people realize the benefits of this medicine?
Excellent. When I first started using cannabis, I was growing up in Florida, and it wasn't necessarily something that was accepted by everyone, including the law. So it was a very hardship, to use cannabis. And originally, a friend came to me one day. We played sports. I was an avid baseball, basketball, and football player, and I enjoyed playing a lot of sports. But I knew that cannabis sometimes was looked at as a bad thing. But we would practice so much, so hard, 2 days out of the week, 2 days every day, 5 days out of the week. And we would really push ourselves hard to where, other guys were drinking beers, afterwards, or attending parties and keggers. Fortunately, in Florida, it's a very high rate of people that also use pharmaceuticals and stuff too as well. So it was hard for someone that wanted to remain kind of natural and go for something that was going to help me. There was a lot of different vitamins and stuff, but we knew that, cannabis had been introduced a few times, and when we smoked it, it worked for us for good sleeping and good relief and stuff. And, as we grew up, we kind of understood that, cannabis was really something that was going to help us long term. We knew if we smoked too much of it, it was a bad thing. It's always, of course, use it in a certain amount. Don't overdo it now, that with everything, it's like that. But, I met my wife while living in Florida, and she was also a cannabis user too as well. And she knew that growing was the way to go about it. And, what we did was we met, we were smoking cannabis together. We knew that it was a plan to grow, and really, take on a whole new aspect, because we were, of course, having to, buy as much as we could. And all of our friends would come to us and we would take care of that as young people. But with it being illegal, it was just so hard there in Florida for us to really have our medical relief as well as chase our passion, which truly was cannabis, at the time for hobbies. Our lifestyle was outside all the time and really getting out and enjoying life. And it helped almost every aspect of our lives. And it was really something that brought me to Maine when she said, "Hey, I'm from Maine. Let's move to Maine. It's legal there for our medicinal use. And if we move up there, we could really focus on us, our family." I have 2 children. I have a stepson who's now off to college and a young stepdaughter that lives with me now. And she's, I'm her father, and that's the way it goes. And she's now dealing with aspects of her health too as well. Growing up, and I'm concerned thinking, she's around the age that I was when I first started using cannabis, which is around 16 years of age. And maybe it would work for her because, there's a lot of mental things out there that cannabis could really take care of. And if someone's not going for that mental aspect of the cannabis, it seems like they're just kind of, using it for not the right things. When you really pick up a cannabis jar, you really got to think to yourself, this is a medical thing. This isn't something that's, a lure or something that's trendy to do. Of course, sometimes that's how it's introduced. But when you realize the aspect of cannabis is medical, it really changes your life. So we were looking to possibly to change the direction of life for, family members and others. So we decided that we were going to start to grow. And when we started to grow, when we got to Maine, it wasn't going to be for a lot of other people. It was just going to be for our family. And it was something that we just started to pick up and, slowly work into our own. And it ended up becoming out so well that, so much of it in abundance. Cannabis is such a giving plant medically that it was coming out in abundance. We were networked with the right people at the time. Things were growing very well in the method that we were growing. And we were just very excited to see that it was coming out as medically fit as we thought it would. And we realized that, wow, we have enough here for others. If we were to sit on all this, it would be kind of gluttony in a way, and we wouldn't be able to share the positive aspect of this. So we started to network. Little did I know about Instagram and stuff like that. I didn't realize that there was a lot of forums and stuff when I started. I, of course, grew up in an illegal state. So it was up until Maine, up until a couple years into Maine, that I really understood that there was an online network of people that I could reach out to. And I didn't know how to do it. It was really tough for me. I've only been in Instagram for two years and not even a half yet. So I'm actually quite rookie and greenhorn when it comes to networking and stuff. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to approach people and stuff because I looked at cannabis at a whole different angle than most people looked at it. Most people online, which I've come to see in the 2.5 years of experience, that there was a lot of like money, moguls, and a lot of different roads you could take down the road. And it kind of took away from that medical aspect that I was there to begin with. So it was quite extraordinary, but it was also quite disturbing. It was quite a wondrous event to go on and network with people. But at the same time, I really had to catch myself wandering off into the cyberspace of this broad network and really come back to the soul, which was, hey, this is a medical thing. That's how we're approaching this. It started off as for our family, by our family, and that's how we wanted it to be, so, it came out so abundant. We knew, hey, let's share. So the moment we shared with people, we got reviews. It got to a point to where I was being so giving that I was just giving, constantly giving, and people didn't understand what I was doing. They're like, why is this new guy coming out of nowhere? I mean, wow, his stuff looks like he has definitely been doing this for a long time. He's telling me he hasn't, which is like, to other people around here, it can sometimes be competition when you go back to what I was saying about how people are money moguls instead of being medicinal growers. They're kind of doing it for the fact of, oh, hey, if we don't do this, we're not going to eat. It's like, well, hold on a second. You got to understand. It goes all the way back to the same road where, why are you doing it? But as I was saying, I just wanted to continue to give to people to, because I knew they were hurting, because naturally in the times that we're in right now, you find a lot of good positive conversation, but there's always the balance of how the world is negatively affecting people.
Right.
Well, I'm kind of that type of person that could sense that energy. And if that person is really needing help, I'm going to want to give him something. So I gave a lot of the cannabis out at first. It kind of shocked a lot of people. People were like, why is he being so friendly? Because of other people's state of mind. And I got great reviews back.
Good.
They were telling me it was something that they wanted to know how I was doing it, why I was doing it, when I was doing it, how, everything, the ands, ifs, But because they had growing styles, but they didn't understand the method that I was going into. But to go back to why I'm doing this is basically just because, this is a medically fit thing that could really help families. And once I found out that it could help the close people that I was trying to network with and be with and be around, I knew that we had a good thing going on, and our method was really starting to take off to where, hey, this is more than just a small thing. And not only is it really working well, but the train of thought and the presence of me talking to the people really helped them. And they said, this is a little different. This is genuine. This isn't something new that is hype that we have been seeing in the industry lately. A lot of the time it's hype. It's whoever's got the best logo and whoever's got the going live most and whoever's got the most money to put behind it, whose packages are looking the best, who's going to invest this amount of money, Yeah. And those type of moves really shape the industry to a whole different aspect. It takes away from the why we're doing this for a medical thing and how we could show other families how to help their family. And that was to all that talk, just to go back into one small nutshell, honestly, to say it is that, hey, we're doing this for other families that could be just like us. Not saying that, hey, I'm the best, this is the way to do it, but look what it's doing for us. It's doing great things.
Yep.
Let's help you become that too as well. And ultimately, that's what it was.
Well, when I started, doing videos for Atlas Plant Trainer and putting myself out in the world, it was always under the basis of, hey, I don't know the best way to do everything because I haven't had that amount of time under my belt. But what I do know is that my way is working for me. And I just want to share that with other people so that they can learn how to grow simply and get the same results that I was getting. So right there with you. Now, Thor, I think people can tell or at least get that vibe from you that you're a caring person and, that you're genuine. So I wanted to save this genuine reaction. You sound like you belong in Maine, just, connecting with nature. But being from Florida, what was your reaction the first time that your wife drove you up past Bangor and you're driving up Route 1? And what was your first reaction when you're like, how much longer to your house? Where the hell are you taking me? And how many dead bodies are buried along the side of this road?
Maine is a very big place. It is full of forestry. Where they're originally from, they have these super highways that are not even asphalt anymore. They're just like 5-lane wide dirt roads because they have so much industry construction going on with the biggest machines. Because really, to be honest, it feels like one of the safest spots in the world.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You're actually really, you get all the seasons here too. So depending on what time of the season you're going to come up here, you're going to get a different look of Maine because Maine has 4 different looks. The seasons change here. And that's one of the best aspects about living here in Maine is you really get to see the world and Mother Nature.
That far north in Maine has to be honest, I know where your wife is way the hell up north. There. That place really only has 3 seasons. It's winter.
Oh yeah.
It's winter, summer, and fall, right?
Yeah, because you don't get the spring ends up being just a little bit of rain.
Right. And winter lasts for so long up there. So long.
You will see snow on the ground until June up here. This state isn't for everyone, and I'm not boasting or anything, but a lot of people could not live here. From aspects around the world, especially if you've never set foot in something like this. And like he said, I was from flatland Florida, where the beaches were in the rivers and the estuaries, and it was replaced with lakes and forestry. It's a very big time forestry and big time lakes.
But for anybody that hasn't taken that drive from Bangor and you get off 95, because 95 is going to end eventually, and you just take that Route 1 all the way up there, it's just a long drive, man. It's just a long drive, and
you got to have the right vehicle.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right vehicle here, your car will wear and tear. It's very the tires from the weather to everything, it really takes a toll on everything. It's you have to stay. If you don't have a vehicle here in the state too, oh boy, I couldn't imagine how hard it would be.
Yeah.
The vehicles are very important here because of the fact that you can go up to these towns and 3 miles away there's is your store, and it's only a small country store, or you got one grocery store per town, and it's a long ways between towns up there. And it was tough at first. I was a little scared and worried that I wasn't going to appreciate it as much until I really got to where I was settled in at.
Well, good.
She showed me where she was from, but we ended up residing in South Berwick, which is in the Berwicks.
Okay. Yeah. So you're southern part of the state.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
the southern part of the state. We ended up first coming to Portland, and we stayed in Portland for a little bit of time until a gentleman that we were renting from, unfortunately, was not as trustworthy as others. So he ended up selling a entire, home, which was a big giant home. But up here in Maine, they like to rent out sections of the homes because they're so big. And we had a wonderful top floor unit, but he sold the house without really telling us on the lease. And it was tough. We ended up having to, go to a pine legal place. Yep. And fortunately, though, it was beneficial that, unfortunately, not every time you get put in a bad predicament, will every state help you. And Maine's such a beautiful state that they were able to help us with their departments and stuff. And it was a wonderful thing because if you get put down in a situation here, they don't just leave you hanging. Maine's a wonderful state, guys. It's a great place to live. And if you abuse it in any ways, people will see that right away. And they don't like that here. This is a farming state of people that work probably hardest in the world, if anywhere else in the world. And they go through a lot to live here. So, it was quite intimidating, but if you can handle it, it is quite rewarding with so many things.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad your wife didn't burr you up in,
all the way up
close to the Canadian border, all the way up there.
Yep. Originally from Holman, way up there.
Yeah. So, I've spent, a girlfriend of mine went to the school up in Limestone, Maine. So I had driven up there, and then I went to fish festivals up there, and even being from Maine, Maine,
but it's very secluded.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Kind of like the Harry Hoedown farms parties that they have out here in the harvest festival.
Oh yeah, but not. Limestone's a whole different story.
But they do have harvest festivals, and a lot of people do get together in those areas. It's not just everybody out fending for themselves. Everybody gets together. It's very union.
All right, guys, you have heard me talk about them a bunch of times, but they're the best, and that's acinfinity.com. AC Infinity are makers of the best programmable, censored, metered, timered, awesome ventilation for your grow room, grow space, room, entire facility. They have it all covered. And you get 15% by using the code GrowCast15 at checkout at acinfinity.com. It works. I've tried it. We've had some people come back, but it is on their grow room supplies. So you can't get 15% off on everything that they have at acinfinity.com. And they have a bunch of stuff. But what you do get 15% off on is all of the fans, the ductwork, the clamps, all of that type of stuff. Anything you need for your grow space, you're going to get 15% off using the code GrowCast15 at acinfinity.com. Well, Thor, we're going to kind of take one of our questions and kind of help springboard that into your particular grow setup and your method.
Excellent.
And you wanted to talk about deep water culture and how that's benefited you, but also it seems to be kind of like the crux of your growing journey, or, and
yes,
the reason I say that is because
I'm glad you're saying that too.
Yeah. I mean, throughout the questionnaire that you filled out, it seemed like, you were told that this wasn't going to be the way for you to grow, and you kind of just stuck with it and figured it out on your own and figured out the way. So, bring us into your grow setup, but also talk about what makes your method your method, and how you've gotten so much success out of it.
Right. So when we first started, my wife had been growing this method for quite some time, a long time before even Viking Gardens was thought into existence. She was living here in Maine, and she was taught to grow out of 15-gallon totes. So she not only was growing, but she was growing big time horticulture. She got taught at a young age. So we're talking back in the 90s, guys, she was DWCing. And this is probably, I would say, around the time that it first started becoming popular and a big thing. Up here in Maine, it's been medicinal for a long time. It wasn't recreational or as big as it is now, but back then it still had a pretty big grip on, hey, there's an industry up here. So they were getting information and stuff like that from different parts of the world and stuff. I'm sure that's how they found it out, but she grabbed that aspect and she really took off with it. When we met, I was originally growing in soil, big time soil fan. I still won't put soil down because it'll be something that I talk about here in a moment. It was my way of growing. Sometimes when you get into your track of growing, you don't think that other ways work because it's working. That old saying, "Why fix something when it's not broken?" But there's a new world here, and I do appreciate old school a lot, but there's a new world to growing and stuff, and things are changing. And I unfortunately don't want to say it too rude, but a lot of the old school methods, even though they were good, popular, knowledgeable people back then, it's changing. And a lot of these new guys are having a lot more information and are doing a lot more better, which takes us back to DWC and evolving. It has evolved into the recirculating water culture, as you see with current cultures and stuff. I've just outfitted our inventory with a current culture double XL, double barrel, 24 site with a remote epicenter. I got the drain out kit and everything. I really highly recommend looking into pH Perfect by Taurus Hydro, which will constantly keep your pH at the same, removing a lot of the negative ions inside your recirculating grow and reservoir, which will continue your nutrients to be used longer and your pH doesn't change whatsoever. Because everybody knows one of the most important things with water culture is the pH. Having the pH on point will really keep you in your zone. Because the difference in aspect.
Hold on. I don't think people actually know that. Why is pH so important? Well, first of all, we've talked about why pH is important in general, but
I see what you're saying.
Why is pH so much more important in a deep water culture setup?
Correct. In water culture, it's very different than soil because you're using no medium. Your medium is actually water and the nutrients itself inside of a bucket with an air stone providing oxygen for it. So basically, your pH with water has to be at a 5.8. What I believe is it has to be anywhere between 5.5 and 5.8. It can sometimes swing up to around 5.9 and 6 without seeing major issues, but you still want to maintain 5.8 because in a soilless medium, you won't, or excuse me, with no medium when you're using water, it's very different. You don't have to contain that 6.2 to 6 point. Some people even go higher as the soil would be. You don't have to stay so high in that spectrum because there's no real medium to really attach it to. So the water state needs a pH value of a 5.8. It's very important to stay at that. If you don't, you're going to see fluctuation swings. In water culture, you'll see the fluctuation swings actually on your leaves. You'll see I believe it does happen in other mediums too as well, but you'll see it on the leaves if you do it very quickly. Changing the pH up and down. That's why I recommend that Taurus Hydro Perfect pH, because if you're dosing by hand, all water is different. You have to figure out how your water is coming, whether you're using city water or RO water. You have to figure out how that water is and how much what brand you're using. I do prefer to use Psycho pH Down. It's a very strong concentrated, but it's also very valuable and worth the money because it's very cheap. Psycho pH Down compared to like general hydroponics pH Down, it's also stronger. The Psycho version. I don't use Psycho full for everything, but for that pH Down, it works great. And that zone of 5.8 is very important, with water. You have to have that 5 point.
Just to recap, I just wanted to hit upon some really key points there. soil acts as a buffer. So when you're growing in a soil application, a soil media, that soil allows you to have some flexibility in your pH range because the roots aren't exposed to that level of pH all the time. And it's not,
Correct.
the entire root zone isn't getting that pH. So what happens if your pH, what would happen if your pH were down to 5.3 for a day?
Yes, and you become in an acidic zone. Yes, if your pH falls under that 5.5 and you hit that acidic zone,
yep,
and you're growing in an acidic environment, cannabis is not one of those plants that like that. There are some plants out there that prefer that, but this plant does not like that zone. As he said about with the buffers, the main important thing to do is to stay between that 5.5 to 5.8, because if you drop to 5.3 or 5.2 or below, you're going to start to see the leaves hang and droop. The root zone is going to become so acidic that it's going to start frying the roots. The plant's going to start literally like acid on your hands. If I were to pour acid on your hand, it's going to melt it. If you were to put it in the root zone and it were to sit there, the entire plant is going to become somatic and just shut down on you. It is going to become, everything's going to become immobile. Nothing's going to be able to uptake in the root zone. Your root zone will diminish, and if you do that in flower, there's no recovery for that.
Bingo.
You're basically going to shut down your entire plant. You'll lose your plant.
Bingo.
If you do it in veg, sometimes you can catch it.
Depending on how long it goes, right? Like,
right.
So one thing is here for me, Thor, is the reason I started this project is to display the multitude of ways that a new grower could undertake and start growing their own great cannabis for themselves. But I do need to jump in here and just say, for new growers, deep water culture might not be the solution for you, just because it does require
more maintenance.
Maintenance, accuracy, and precision, right? Like, soil provides that buffer, so you make a mistake, you're like, the next day you'll see it. But what Thor's trying to tell you is, if you make a mistake in this type of setup, you don't have a day to recover. I've had friends that have lost an entire crop in 6 hours of having the wrong nutrient levels or the wrong mixture, because those roots,
DWC.
Exactly, because those roots are just fully exposed to the food that you're giving it all the time. And if that food mixture isn't right, then some really gnarly and nasty things can happen in your garden, and you'll regret it within 24 hours. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. Same thing with nutrients, too, as well.
Yeah, nutrient levels, ppm, pH, anything you're feeding your plant, like that deep water culture is just, like, you got to be on it. So that's my my warning.
It's not for the faint. It's not for the easy set it and forget it type, for real.
Exactly.
It's something you can set up, and it will give you more time than the typical grow, but you have to be cover those big aspects of precision, making sure you're on point.
Bingo.
You're maintaining it properly before you can get there.
Bingo.
And it's hard. It's hard to learn. It's not easy. I was fortunate enough to have a wife that was able to show me a few of the different ways, and studying hard. You really have to take some time to put your head into that DWC. You're going to have to read books, watch videos, and look at other folks who are doing it to shape how you want to do it.
Yeah, we just had Michelangelo grows, and he grows in a Dutch bucket. So it's really been like the big, you're really like our second deep water culture type person.
Right. And they're very advancing. And like you said, you got people, it's always advancing. This industry is really becoming so much more advanced. I mean, the shape of the net pots to the way that you're using your net pots. One example that I do that is different from other people is I use rock wool. A lot of people will take the AOK starter plugs and place it straight, into their medium place it straight into the net pot, and they will surround that with hydroton, which is clay pebbles. A lot of people, hydroton is the quote unquote medium, if there is one in DWC, you want to start off with either Root Riot or Hydrogen. I've tried to drop a plant straight in there. It does work, but it's not good. It's stressful for the plant. But using a medium like a 4-inch Delta block to actually establish the root zones and create more of a wider base for the roots to grow out of, because the AOK plugs are only, they're only so big. But if you take the AOK plug and then put it in a 4-inch block, allow that to root out and get more established before you put it into the DWC, I've seen a lot better results with a horizontal growth pattern from the roots, because instead of just the straight down that you get from the AOK plugs, it covered more of a square mass and was able to really put off like a beard. Because whenever just the AOK plug dropped the roots, it would look like, I don't know how to say it properly, it would look like almost like a Rasta man's beard. You know how like a Rastafarian's beard is? They kind of, they put it in wraps and stuff, and it's kind of like skinny and long. But when you use the squares, all the way around, it's able to really make like a full flush beard, like a Mainer's beard almost, like just a big burly beard, loggers, and then it's a beard of roots. Yeah. And I call it God's beard, because they're white, silvery, and beautiful. And
I like
it. Look like God's beard,
Yep, I like it.
It's incredible. But if you do it with the Delta 10 4-inch blocks, you get more of a, you get to use less hydrogen, you get more of a spread on your roots, and they grow bigger and faster. And I've seen a bigger growth pattern out of that too as well.
See, that's experience. That's a pro tip coming at you right there.
Yeah, it was something that I accidentally stumbled upon. I never saw it. I actually was just experimenting with hydro or rock wool, wanting to put them in slabs and stuff. And I had a few extra buckets. And I said, well, I already got them in the 4-inch Delta, or excuse me, the 4x4 Delta 10s. They're called Delta 10 4-inch rock wool blocks. And I put them inside there. I said, well, I don't have to use much hydrogen as I did. And wow, the root results. Wow. Boom. And took pictures of it. It's on the Instagram there. And
nice.
I've been using that same setup since. I never just drop it in there with a one root riot, or I always go in. I get the pack of blocks. It's only like $6 or $8, and that little bit of extra money really goes a long way for me, at least in the 5-gallon setups.
So Thor, what else do we need to know about your grow room?
Honestly, I don't like using tents. I'm not going to cut down people that use tents. I feel like open dorm, more like open area grows with the airflow during the DWC do a lot better. Because of the fact that humidity tends to build up if you don't use a massive amount of hydrogen on top of your net pot, because the fact that sometimes water can sometimes evaporate through those 5-gallon buckets if you're not properly set up, and it gets humid in those tents. And sometimes the plants really need an open area with DWC. I don't think tents work well with DWC, but unless they're single or doubles, sometimes if they are going to do it, they have to have major airflow. And that's why I said I'm not knocking it. You just got to have major airflow, because airflow is one of the also more important things that you have to have, whether it's any growing style, but DWC especially. Humidity tends to get up a little more than usual.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't more so than humidity in a smaller tent and deep water culture, isn't temperature control the major factor there? Because if your water temperature gets too hot, then it's burning the roots, right?
Correct. Yeah. As far as water temperature too, as well, you want to make sure temperature. It's basically having it dialed in. If you're going to use a tent, have it dialed in. But open area is a little more easier to dial in.
Exactly. So in a tent, like you have a smaller space, it's harder to allow that air exchange, which if heat builds up, then you got these buckets and they're going to build up and they're going to get hot.
And then, a small amount of time too, because the tent's a small little area, so it's going to happen.
Bingo. Yep.
You're not going to see it or start to notice it. It's going to happen quick on you, which is something you just have to be vigilant about. And that's what reels back to the beginning where he said it's not for every person to start growing DWC right away. It's something that you definitely want to practice on. I recommend everybody doing it. You can get it for less than 50 to 60 bucks. I guarantee you, I could email if you possibly even wanted to email or DM me on the Instagram there. I would be more than happy to show you that all you need is a 5-gallon bucket, a 6-inch net pot, a 3/16 air line, a medium-sized air stone, and an air pump. And it's very cheap. Most places, grocery stores have setups already where they'll set one up for you. I know one place that has it here in Maine for $32.
There you go.
Which is a wonderful setup. You are going to need a drill to drill your hole, because I recommend putting a hole into the net pot or into the side of the bucket for your air line, because you're going to crimp it. If not, and the air stone will not do its job. But the temperature is very big.
Maybe we can do a part 2 or, a DIY deep water culture type thing. Yeah.
It definitely is. I think everybody that messages me and gets into talking about it to learn it always has to go with me for up to a half a week at a time when it really comes to learning it. It's not something we could really fit all in. And plus, I like to talk a little extra, so that doesn't help. But I appreciate you mentioning that we could possibly do a part 2.
Yeah, maybe it's just a dedicated like DIY DWC type thing.
I would put more time than you would expect. If you needed me, I'm here for you. I'd be more than happy to answer.
Cool. Maybe we'll accompany that with some pictures. I'm putting a lot on Thor's plate right now, but we can recap that. But we're gonna shift gears. We only have a couple minutes left before I gotta take over for the kid. I wanted to talk and get your opinion on choosing the right genetics for a grower. And you had mentioned sticking with genetics for too long, and that being a mistake that you felt like you had made. But, then there's also the other side of, man, there's just a lot of genetics out there right now. Like, how's somebody supposed to decide, and how long should I stick with it? Because I don't support growers just growing unless it's just not the strain for you.
Right.
But I want growers growing a strain 2 or 3 times to really learn what it takes to improve a strain, because growing one strain will help improve you as a grower and your grow setup. But I'll let you go. Like, what are take it. Yeah, okay, go for it.
Cool. So what you last said about really figuring out a strain, that is something that my wife taught me. She told me, hey, look, every time you grow something, you need to take a cut. You need to understand that you're going to have to grow this genetic a couple of times before you can, quote unquote, kick that strain's ass. That's what she calls it. She's like, look, if you want to figure out that strain, you're going to have to grow it a few times and grow it possibly in different settings. So it's something important that if you want to find a genetic and you want to figure out that genetic, you can't just test it once. You can't just grow it once. And if you are going to do it that way, you must be putting out 10 plants at a time and then doing a testing of it, which also brings me into the aspect of testing. I believe in that 100%, that every genetics company is going to want a team of people around them that is going to be willing to grow for them, not necessarily for like a empowerment of, hey, I'm part of the team and this is how it happens. I was fortunate enough to be in different types of situations that led me to wanting to test. It took me a long ways and it evolved me as a grower. I was reaching out to different companies and really trying to figure out which genetics were the best and who to grow with long term, who was really doing it. And it wasn't a popular thing of who's cool. It was who was going to just come across my life during that time. Mm-hmm. And I asked a lot of people. I caught a lot of resentment from different people because a lot of the times people feel like you shouldn't ask for to be a tester or to ask to test a pack of genetics because it costs them an extreme amount of money. Well, I've come into that lifestyle myself, and it doesn't cost that much money for someone to take their time out of their life to put one pack inside of a package and send it off to someone for $4 to $5. It really does not cost that much to really benefit someone else's life and for someone to give a pack out. And that's what I recommend a lot of growers to do, is to keep an open mind with genetics. Don't get stuck on just what your friends are giving you, because there is so many genetics out there that you could choose from. But when it comes down to it, you're not doing it for what's most popular. you're going to really go for what's smoking really good for you medicinally. You don't want some type of big, major, fast head high that's a high percentage THC that is just has no flavor, but is just real super high in THC and gives you want something that fits every aspect of your spectrum. When you go to grab your buds in the morning, you're grabbing a certain type, whether it's a daytime, a nighttime, for this type of pain or for this type of issue, or a mental focus if you're looking to focus, because they have strains for that too that don't get you major stone, but actually help your focus and vitality and really pick you up for the day and really just help you get outside, because there's a lot of agoraphobic people that don't like social anxiety and social moods and being in social places, and that really helps pick it up for them. So really finding different strains and different breeders really will bring you into a whole different world. Don't stay with one guy. Don't think that one guy is going to take over this industry, because that's something that's never going to happen. This is a teamwork thing among networks, and it's one big huge spider web. There's no one sole guy in the middle doing it all. Everybody's doing their own thing uniquely and genuinely, and you can do it too. Everybody can do this. I'm not saying go out and breed. I'm saying go out and find genetics, be a tester for a new company, believe in everybody, because everybody out here putting out genetics, it's worked for them for some reason. So if you really contact them and ask them, hey, this is what I need it for, or this is what I'm going through, the real ones will contact you, or at least tell you where you can be contacted by someone that will talk to you about those things. If someone's just telling you $120 for this pack, it's what people want, it's the hype and stuff, don't think that pack's going to really help you 100%. That might help part of your bag appeal or something, but it's not going to help you medicinally. You really got to grow a lot of strains to kind of understand it, or listen, tune into shows like this one. One genetic that I will say that recently has worked really good for me is the GMO. I've had the real Skunk Master Flex Cut crossed into different hybrids, as well as the original GMO, and that one has worked good for me in different areas. Mimosa, the GMO helps me for my pain and at night. Mimosa helps me during the day. I really like a good, strong, thick, heavy yielding mimosa. That's sativa-like. If you're going for something like mental focus, sometimes Sunday Driver could really give you a good body feel along with that mental focus. CBD, a lot of stuff from my team Soulfire Genetics has been good selections of the hype stuff can be good. Not saying and putting down all hype stuff. Some hype stuff can be good if it's selected right. All pretty stuff doesn't smoke very good. There's a lot of great stuff out there that has a lot of great appeal and looks great, but it doesn't smoke well. So finding the one that smokes well is the key. So you really do gotta experiment, you gotta test, you gotta really grow a lot to really find it. But once you find it, make a cut, keep it. It's important to have a keeper cut, because if you don't keep a keeper cut, you're not going to have that forever. You're going to be constantly searching. So that's important for you to find those things too.
Yeah, I'm going to try and give out some tips, and maybe you can just add on if you have a couple thoughts. From my time talking with breeders and listening to breeders at tables at shows, kind of what sparked the breeder features that we do over at Growcast, and to kind of give people a starting point.
I love those guys. They're veterans too, even though I'm experienced, I'm still young and greenhorn, and I don't want nobody thinking out there that I'm the top guy, best one with the best advice. I got some really good advice, and I have some stuff that is going to work for you. I'm not going to steer in the wrong direction, but those breeder guys that you're talking about and those Growcast shows, I've looked into them. Beautiful work. That stuff is knowledgeable, because we need that type from the experience. We need these experienced guys talking that we're not going to learn. We're just going to end up having to shape our own and hoping that it works. Guidance is key. Teamwork makes dream work. People don't feel like doing it on your own is always the answer to things. Really, teamwork is the human thing to do.
Well, you got to stand on the shoulders of giants, as I like to say, and we weren't able to get to this point without them.
Correct.
But what I wanted to touch upon was how to get started choosing a strain. And, we've all had those strains that we've loved the smell of and we've worked really, that worked well for us.
Yes.
So strains are separated by, not the cannabinoid content, because 20 to 30% THC isn't going to have that much of an impact on you when you're smoking a bowl. But what's going to have an impact is the terpene profile. So, think back to that strain, Blue Magoo came up on the last episode that I did. So Blue Magoo,
I've heard of that.
Blue Magoo cookies from Dynasty Genetics, that's the one. You go and you look at test results for that, and you look at the terpene profile. And then you take that terpene profile and then you go find other strains that match that terpene profile in as close as they can, right? Because it's the terpenes and things that smell good to you and make you feel good that are going to separate and be the strains that, have that medicinal effect on you. So
very nice.
Yeah, the terpenes are really the starting point. If you don't have the option of, going to these trade shows, especially with COVID going on, but going to these trade shows, smelling some of the flavors that the growers produce, start with something that worked for you and kind of reverse engineer it back to the terpene profile, then finding a terpene profile of some...
Try to genetically match it
exactly,
to others.
Exactly.
That's a good possibility that this one could work for you too. That's such a great way to say that. When I said nice, that was like a spark in my brain. It was like, wow, that's a key piece of information there.
Yeah, so I have a friend from high school that tells me, and has told me 10 years ago, like, if you ever smell cat piss, cat piss terpenes.
707 cat piss make a huge comeback.
Yeah, he's like, I want that stuff. He's like, that's what does it for me. And
it comes out in a lot of these new strains lately. I've seen it in the GMO a little bit too as well. And
it
how
circles back around, right? It circles back around a little bit. Yeah.
It's really a strong cat piss. And when we talk about this cat piss, it is a very true, very thick, musky cat piss.
Yeah, you want to go empty the cat box right afterwards.
Right. And my cat never goes into my room. And when I tell you that she came down there during flowering, she never comes down there, and I tell you, she went straight to the cat piss plant. Straight to it. Wow, dude, that is really, truly a very musky terpene that is very valuable and could be extracted to a whole different level. And geez, the feelings that it can give you, and just knowing that it's not potency, it's also terpene profile, because those smells enhance our receptors to really feel those medicinal effects, to really transform us into who we need to be every day to get us through our everyday lives, which is very tough these days. It's not easy to be, not to mention, with our pandemic that's going through, and I hate to say pandemic, but it's quite become that here in the United States, but it's different nowadays. But man, genetically matching those profiles to other ones, finding those profiles, cat piss, such a strong one. Man, this is a great conversation. That was a great piece. Thank you for giving that one to me too, as well.
Awesome. Glad that got out there. But we do have to wrap up here. Did you have any last bits of advice, and how can our audience find and connect with you?
Honestly, if you want to connect to me, I would say Instagram would be the best way to get a hold of me, or through email at cgud1989@gmail. If they would like to ask any questions, I am open to do that. And the best piece of advice I can give every single grower out there is to not think that there is people out here that can tell you how to grow, what to grow, and how to do it. There's no true key to this. There is a protocol, but you don't have to really do what other people tell you to do. If that person tells you, hey, this is what's wrong, don't do what's popular, do what's right. Listen to your heart, grow with your heart. This isn't something that you need to look up to someone to necessarily. You can possibly do this on your own if you really have the heart for it. So believe in yourself, get a hold of some great genetics, and you can become that person too. You can make more medical strains out there for other people, and you could grow some great stuff for yourself and your family. And it's a lovable thing. It will open up a whole new world and give you a lot of time to put into that hobby instead of other things that could potentially not be as rewarding. So grow, guys. That's the way to go.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Thor. Thank you, audience, for listening. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, and share the show. And until next time, Happy growing.
See you guys.